Well, hello everybody, and welcome to Full Course Yellow. This is a Thursday night get-together, bit of a conversation, a chat between friends about the world of local and international motorsport. And we've got plenty to talk about this week. If you looked on Monday and Tuesday, you actually saw on the screens of 7, you actually saw some motor racing coming from Symmons Plains. And I thought all up, it was a bloody good meeting, and I really enjoyed it. Perhaps it's because we've been denied everything so long, but there was some good racing. There were a few incidents, and of course, an inspirational performance by our mate Tom Randle, coming back after his chemotherapy and his battle with cancer to win the John McCormick Cup for S5000. And in the S5000s, look and sound fantastic. So congratulations to Tom, and well, let's talk about it. How many people saw it? Who actually, apart from me, who watched the thing? Doc watched it. Pete watched it. Pete, let's start with you. Do you what did you think? First of all, what do you think of the telecast? There was a lot of criticism of the Channel 7 telecast. Now, I should point out, Channel 7 are not responsible for that telecast. The telecast is paid for by the Australian Racers Group, and it was done by AVE, who are the people responsible for SBS Speed Week. So they were the people producing it. Now, originally, Supercars Television production house, they were going to do it, but for some reason, probably money, they pulled out, and AVE took over. And so AVE have got a lot of experience. But Pete, what did you think? What did you think of it?
I thought it was better than what it's been previously, but it was a bit jumpy and a bit flashy, but it was better than what it was previously. And like in the second race or the first race when Michael Caruso couldn't get off the line, we got a lot of coverage of his communication between him and his team, which I thought was good.
Yeah, I think they probably had the heart in their mouth though, because I think Michael was quite rightly getting a bit
annoyed.
A bit annoyed, and was verbalising said annoyance quite vocally. I mean, they had to. Poor Greg Rust had to pop in, it's all part of the emotion. Apologies for the language, and but I mean, if you're going to put a microphone in a race car, and when things go wrong with said race car. And it was a communication thing, because they were obviously telling him stuff, and he's going, "Look, it doesn't." Don't you think I'm actually doing
when
that?
Someone else from a commercial TV station usually had that. They've probably got someone who can sit there in the production crew and push a red button, and they've got 7 seconds to hit it. So they were crossing to an in-car footage and audio that they were probably thinking was going to be a little bit more docile. And as you said, the usual suspects weren't running the coverage. It looked like Channel 7 was, because they had all the Channel 7 personalities on the commentary team, and the new, part of the commentary team, including there was a cricketer there. But on further investigation, he knew a little bit about racing, and he also apparently wants to start his own team up down the track. So, but look, he was a surprise packet. Yeah, it was rough around the edges. And I think that was the general consensus about the public that were watching it. There's a few speed bumps here and there, and little bits and pieces that could have been done better or over you. But look, as far as the coverage goes, they gave you a good all-round coverage. As you said, Brett, we haven't had much of that medicine for a while, and it was really overdue. I like the fact that they also, Channel 7 went to the trouble of putting it on 7 Plus. So I was able to live stream it earlier in the day and watch it through 7 Plus on a tech device at home, and then you could tune in later on and watch the regular stuff on 7 Mate anyway. So that was great access as well too.
I think there were a couple. Sorry, Pete.
Sorry. With the exception of the longer races, they seem to place their ads quite well, because even on 7 Plus, with shorter races they let them run and then had ads. And when there was a safety car, they went to an ad. But in the longer races,
someone who knew what they were doing.
Yeah, and I think the thing is that there was criticism about the people saying, if it was, Foxtel, they don't put in that. Yeah, this is what people need to. This is what you need to understand about commercial television. Commercial television exists to play commercials. If you're going to be able to watch it, then yeah, they've got to play commercials, and the more commercials they can play, the more likely it is that we're going to see more motorsport. I mean, if they're not playing ads, it usually means they don't have any. So that's one of the things, and they've got to put them somewhere. I don't think. There were a couple of times when they went to wrong at bad times. I think a couple of times, Jess Dane, I thought was she was a bit of a disappointment. I thought she was obviously very nervous, but she just I don't think she asked particularly sort of incisive questions.
Molly
Particularly,
was also a bit nervous too. She was umming and ahhing a lot as well too.
once again, you get people who aren't professional broadcasters. I mean, and she was quite obviously thinking like, why the hell aren't I out there? And that's probably a pretty good question to ask. She was certainly out there last year, and so why the hell isn't she out there racing? But they obviously she got an increased public profile through that SAS thing, which I didn't see, but apparently she did very well at that, and a lot of people were very impressed with her. So she got there. As for Hodge, as for Brad Hodge, Brad has been a motorsport fan for forever and ever. In fact, many years ago, I was in Melbourne, and when he was playing for Victoria, they had, just before the Sheffield Shield season, the Victorian cricket team, Cricket Victoria, had a day in the city square where they meet the players and see them train and all the rest of it, and they were all sort of training. And Hodgie actually came up and said hello and said, I watch your show on Channel 31. I'm a big motor racing fan, and he was saying back then that he was really keen to get into HQs, and so he's a genuine petrol head. He is
a diehard fan. Also, just see that Tim Macro even bowled to Hodgie back in his early days in the nets.
Yes, that was.
See that? So So Macro's a big cricket fan on the other side of the fence.
Yeah, there's a few of us out there. I mean, but it's it was interesting that he put his hand up and said yes, and he obviously told Hodgie about those days. So that was interesting.
Hodgie was batting in the nets, and Tim Macro bowled a few balls down, and Tim said he basically sent them sailing over my head, so I didn't bowl much after that. So and I think Hodgie said on the coverage, I stuck to my sport, Tim stuck to his sport. Everyone's better for it, including the public.
Yeah, I think so, but that's. But obviously he's very keen, and they're obviously very keen on him as a commentator, because he's been used extensively in the Big Bash, which is like his area. But it was interesting the fact that there were like a few Big Bash matches on. I think there were two on that. Two or even three on that day, and that they had him, or he was down at Symmons rather than being at the MCG. So
I thought what was really refreshing, because they've been underrated for a few years, and these guys are excellent, and their knowledge of racing across the board is absolutely, it's almost immaculate. Krillsy and bloody Chad, actually, they've only been able to do the second tier series or support categories for a long time, and I thought it was actually really refreshing them to get some great full races in different categories of racing and be able to show their wares, their strengths, and what they knew, their knowledge about S5000s, and they're not just they've been around for a decade or even more. They're not old guys and not young either, but they're fantastic, and they were really able to, with the length of the races that they were doing, 25 races, 25 laps of, even though they're only 50 plus almost seconds of S5000, they were saying, oh yeah, this race, and they had time to talk about the drivers and their personalities and their backgrounds that they were riding around the track, and had some great feel-good stories as well to talk about.
Yeah, I think it was pretty good commentary. I mean, Crailsy's been doing it for a long time. I mean, he actually called a race. He called a Macau Grand Prix for us many years ago. He came around here. He was sitting in this very room where I am now, calling the Macau Grand Prix back in probably about 2005 or 6 or something like that, whatever year that was. That we did the Macau Grand Prix when Melissa and I went over to Macau, and we got the nobody else was interested in the rights, so they said if you guys want it, so we had the Australian rights for the Macau Grand Prix for about 4 years. I remember I said to Krause at Sandown, he was doing his media job at Sandown, and he was with the Australian Formula 3 Association, and I said that we were going to be showing the thing, and I was doing the commentary, and he went, I'd be happy to give you a hand, and I said, you're over in South Australia, and he went, I'll fly across, and he did. He was that keen to come across and do it. So he called the Macau Grand Prix for us many years ago. So he's been around for a long time. He's very keen, and he's very keen on his stuff. He did make, if you're watching Krause, there was one mistake because he actually he added a few CCs to Formula Pacific, Formula Atlantic by saying they were 2-litre 4-cylinder cars. They were in fact 1.6-litre cars back in those days. But we'll let you off with that because you're not quite as old as I am.
Oh, the critique as well too. Oh, yeah. But no,
well, Brett, on that note, I'll just remind you that only milk comes in 2 litres.
Oh, here we go. Know what's in the back of the
come in cubic inches.
Oh, jeez. Here we go.
Well,
It's the can of worms now.
Yeah, certainly with no substitute for cubic inches. I mean, apart from TCR, and they're turbocharged 2 litres, so they're not they're not exactly anemic. They're putting out a bit of power. And they're pretty quick, but apart from the TCRs, you had the touring car masters.
Oh yeah.
Which saw John Bowe notch up 100. Yeah, 100 a century. So Sheffield Shield claps. Well done.
Yeah.
Well done.
Hold your bat in the air. Hold your bat.
Yeah, hold the bat. It's been a while. So I'm glad. It would be terrible if he did the sort of the Shane Warne and got to 90, or the Don Bradman and got to the finished one, just that one short of the century. So it's good that he did that. But
he had to work for it though. He wasn't an easy run in the first couple of races. He had to work. He had to rev put that Tirana up to 8,000 revs per minute, and then find the corners.
That Camaro, that Garwood Camaro from Tasmania. That was. That once it was. I mean, you expect it because it's got a few more. Speaking of cubic inches, it's got about 700 more cubic inches than the Tirana. But what got me is just how well it handled, and particularly at the end of going into the hairpin there, the braking was the braking was really impressive.
There's a blue XD Falcon that's still looking for a wheel that ran away on them down there somewhere too. I think they're still searching the paddocks.
Have you seen the still of that wheel in the air? It's on Facebook. Somebody posted it on Facebook, and it was from the back, looking at the car going away up the back straight there, and the wheel is a mile in the air. It's like it's. So I don't know what happened. Someone said that they thought there was yes. Well, someone said there was a bit of a touch, a bit of a bump earlier, and that might have damaged the wheel, and then it's under the stress of going through that corner there. It's the
TA2s were awesome too, guys.
Yeah, they were first. Well, as I said, like apart from that, pretty much everything else was a big V8, and that's what the public really want to see. So TA2 was good. Aaron Seaton and Nathan Hearn. They were really good. Owen Kelly making a comeback to racing, another local doing very well down there. So the racing was really good. The cars look fantastic. They sound fantastic. It's good to see something a bit different. I mean, the Mustangs look more like Mustangs than the supercar ones do at the moment. The Camaros look like Camaros, and but I think the Dodge Challenger just looks.
I was about to say Stuart
awesome.
would have been impressed by the Dodge up the front there too, in the top 3 most of the day.
Would have if I hadn't been distracted by other things.
He was distracted by other things. Dare we ask what those other things might have been?
No.
I was about to say, are they are they transportation related as well too? You might have been working on the car out the back. So
No.
But it was a good meeting that good racing, and as I said, the another criticism that I do have of the coverage, and I don't know whether it was a deliberate thing that they did, but I was really glad they were actually racing in the main race for the S5000s. They were actually racing for the John McCormick Cup, and John McCormick was there to give the presentation. And they never made a thing of that. I mean, and I think that's one of the things this is a really good idea, and they should do this for all of their rounds. That they should be fighting for something that has a name and has a tradition. It's like all of those races you see on Island Magic. You say, they're running for the Endeavour Cup or for the for the
Captain Cook 50, Cup.
Yeah, the 50k plate and all those sorts of those races that went back to the 1960s and have a tradition, so you can say, oh yes, well, you've won the Endeavour Cup, which was won by people like Peter Brock and Fred Gibson and all those sorts of things. And I thought that they really didn't. It was like John McCormick was there. He's John's obviously an elder statesman now, but it's like and here's John McCormick to present the cup to Tom Randle. He just sort of handed it to him. There was no big deal about, like this is the John. They're fighting for the John McCormick Cup. John is here. Here's who John McCormick is. Here's the cars he raced. Here's the Elfins. Here's the McLaren. Here's the Charger and the Jaguar and so. Yeah, I would have liked to have seen them make a lot more out of that. Really, sort of boosted it up and made it more sort of this is something that is prestigious, and the guy that this is named after, he's here and he's going to present it to the winner. And I think that would have been something rather than just here's some old guy handing a trophy over to Tom Randle. But
I'm nitpicking now as well too. Like it doesn't matter, but I think what probably, and don't get me wrong, it was great to see all the personalities and actually talk to the racers and they're all great and willing and giving their time and donating, but they probably tried to cram in too many of people in their cars on the starting grid. I know they've got, obviously, Channel 7 obviously had enough people there in their blue shirts going around there and standing at the door for each car and going bang, 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 but they were trying to get 5, 6, 7, 8 of the runners slowly before the start of the race, before they did their sliding lap. And we're going this person, and we're going that person, and we're going this person, and you're sort of getting the same rhetoric from each of the things, and the questions were exactly the same as, oh, you did well, you got third in the last race, what do you want to do in this one? Or oh, exactly, oh, you did really well in practice earlier, but how can you transition the results? So they just tried to cram too many of those drivers in beforehand. Just pick 2 or 3. It doesn't have to be the ones up the front. It could be, mid-pack or something like that. And, and then just generally smooth it over a little bit rather than just trying to get almost every single person on the grid and find out how they want to go and how they've been going all day. So, but on a good thing, they did go to the pits a bit and they got to different people. They asked them, what happened in this race, what happened in that race, and did a little bit of background information at times. So they just tried to cram up too many drivers on the grid just before they were about to hit the tarmac. That's a
really tough gig, that one. I mean, I've sort of been involved in a bit of that. It was way back in the past, and it was. I mean, what are you going to ask? The drivers want to focus on the race. They're ready to go. So that's why I think sort of people like Mark Larkham and Neil Crompton, that's because they're racers and they know what to ask because they've been in that situation. They've sat behind the wheel. They know what the drivers are going through, and they're not going to ask pointless questions. And the same one, as you said, the same one over and over and over again. But look, it was their first attempt from. I think they did a pretty good. Yeah, I think they did a pretty good job. As pointed out, Paul is pointing out that Tom also beat Alfie Costanzo's 41-year-old outright lap record. Alf set that record. Well, actually, the fastest time of the day, it was quite a few of the cars ended up under the record, but it was the fastest of the weekend was actually Joey Mawson. So he's the outright lap record holder there now. So. But Tom just did a great. I don't know. Tom must be hanging because he's his workshop and his simulator business is just down here in Dandy South at the site of the Dandy Drag. So I don't know whether he's sort of wandering out on a Friday night or a Saturday evening or something and joining the fun. But by gee, he got a hell of a start on that in that main race. That was an absolute bolter of a start. He got the whole shot at everyone, and I was really worried because it was a longer race. I thought, yeah, at some stage he might tire, and Joey's going to Joey and perhaps Tim are going to reel him in. But no, he held on to the end, and it was a fabulous win. He now leads the series. Next round of the series is actually down at Phillip Island in a couple of weeks' time, where they're going to run with the super bikes as well. So that's going to be I don't know how many people are going to allow in there in terms of spectators, but you've got TCR, Trans Ams, S5000s, pretty much all the categories you saw down in Tasmania, plus the first round of the Australian Superbike Championship. So that's going to be that's in terms of value for money, that's going to be an absolute ripper.
Cracker. Just going quickly half a step back, you were saying about the lap records, and the reason why is some of the one of the commentators had the insightful knowledge of being able to tell us as watchers that those Hoosier tyres that they were running on the S5000s had an extremely low degradation. In other words, they could have probably done another 25 laps quite easily. So there was always going to be a good chance that throughout the race, as the fuel load came down and as the tyres warmed up, and as the drivers become more accustomed to the track, because a lot of them would be driving that particular car, obviously for the first time down at that circuit with not much testing, that they were going to get more used to it. So yeah, with that low deg on the tyres, they're just going to get faster and faster and faster and faster, because the tyres wouldn't have gone away on them.
That's been one of the things. I mean, depending on how you look at it, we've always said, like the what's the secret to good racing? And I've always said the formula for good racing is always, way too much power and not enough grip, and that's sort of the formula that Chris Lambden and the team have used at S5000, and so it would be really good. It looked impressive. The cars looked very professional. They're well turned out. It was great to see a few friends, apart from Thomas, of course, a few sort of in pit lane regulars over here, like Ricky Capo and Lewis Leeds doing their. Tommy Smith, who we spoke to, we had a little bit on the show last week. He unfortunately had some problems late in the weekend, but Lewis did very well. So did Ricky. So that was James Golding was fast yet again. I tell you, the young guy straight out of Excel, I think Bradley Cooper, I think it was that was a performance. And I mean, yes, he's coming out of karts, but I mean,
16 or something, isn't he? Or something?
Yeah, 16. He jumps out of karts and jumps out of one make Hyundai Excel Racing, where they've got not enough power to pull the skin off of boiled milk, and then suddenly he's competitive with some of the best drivers in Australia and experienced hands, particularly like Tim Macro, who have been doing this for a long time. And congratulations, there was another milestone on the weekend for Tim, was winning another gold star race. He won the second race, so he's had quite a few victories. And as they pointed out, his dad won a race in Formula Holden. He won races and of course championships in Formula 3. Now he's won a race in the Gold Star in S5000. So so congratulations to everyone concerned. But I thought it was a really good. There's there's Paul saying the tyres off of Fred Flintstone's car. They are really hard compound tyres. But that's good for a number of reasons. It gives us good racing. We're not going to go through like you got in front and the tyres went off, and some people left
the laminating.
It was like they just basically have the opportunity of just driving the damn things, sliding them around. They sound good. It would have been better if they could have run without the mufflers, like they did at Albert Park. I always say that our motorsport just rolled over way too easy on the whole noise scenario, I think.
Speaking a little bit about noise, a bit quickly an announcement. Just saw a bit of this media today. One, so it's stay away a little bit, and two, you hoons out there, behave yourselves. The Vic Police have just set up a task force in the last couple of days down in St Kilda in the city area, especially that area, Preston, Paran, St Kilda, and that. It seems to be a big, lot of hoons and a lot of idiots and lots of stupid things going on down there. So coming through the car clubs, stay away from that area at the moment because they know it's not the purists and the people that are out there that do the right thing. It's the idiots. But over the next probably few weeks or month, they're going to be cracking down on a lot of illegal activity. And I thought Stuart was going to say something then, but he's just actually really coughing.
No, he's yawning because he's been all up all night switching office hours. So,
I was actually watching some of the highlights from Symmons Plains, and yeah, you might complain about how hard those tyres are, but there's a lot of cars dancing around and a lot more driver control than what you might expect.
Low downforce
corner at the end of the straights, it's like watching them literally drift through the corners is kind of exciting.
Yeah,
let's see if we can find some highlights for you, and we'll just. We'll roll on these. So this is from their own website with their YouTube feed. So this is the official S5000's coverage. So thank you to them for putting that up because it's brilliant coverage. And you can see how close the cars are, how close they are to the fences. And, well, look, straight on the opening lap there's braking going into the hardest corner on the track.
Yeah, well,
that's going to be better for...
There was a coming together that James Golding was, I think, involved with. But
yeah, they hit tyres.
Oh, there we go.
That was
so even if they are like the full open wheel experience and what have you, a little bit of hard tyre, a bit of sliding around action, that's going to be a lot more fun to watch from the fan viewpoint than anything else, and it gives the drivers a challenge. It's not all about how much downforce you got with the wings. It gives them a chance to actually show that they've got the skill to control that amount of power and that lighter weight. And that will help them get careers further through.
I think the thing is also, I mean, and part of this was part of the design brief from that Chris Lambden was working on because if you go back, I mean, if you go onto the In Pit Lane YouTube channel, you can go back and you can look at we go back to the prototype when Chris and Mike Borland were came up with the prototype for sort of a Formula 5000 type
5 years ago.
Yeah, sort of. So this has been a long time coming, and it sort of had various incarnations and various changes, but the thing was it was always about making the cars fast. I think Chris said today, David Abbott, our friend from the Formula 5000 in New Zealand, was sort of asking about them, and Chris was saying, look, we could run them with softer tyres and a lot more aero, and the things would be 4 to 5 seconds a lap quicker everywhere. They would be blindingly fast with that sort of there. But that was never the idea. The idea was that they were going to have the spirit of Formula. They were going to be a bit squirrely. They were going to be a bit judicious. A little bit too heavy, a little bit under, a little bit too hard tyre, and a little bit too.
And deliberately no traction control. No traction control. You have to throw that. You have to throw the wheel around. You definitely have to drive the car. No traction control whatsoever.
Yeah, and that's it goes back to the spirit of the 5000s.
Yep.
So
it comes down to driver skill more than the computer. The computer driving is fine for the Teslas on the road. It keeps us people who enjoy driving safe. Absolutely. But on a racetrack, it should always be the person behind the wheel.
Yeah, Box is pointing out we had the press release come out. I think it was this morning that Motorclassic has been cancelled for 2021.
That's a shame.
They've decided that they really can't sort of plan for an international event like that, even as far out as October. for what it's worth, I mean, this is okay. This is just a local doctor, but I was talking to the doctor that I went to on Monday. Was the local doctor was saying that he says we're not going to see the end of this for well over a year because, as he said, the big problem at the moment, he says, one is they've got to get this vaccine out. Two, they've got to make sure that it's effective. And three, people have actually got to take the damn thing. And as he said, right now, from all of of his patients, regular patients, he says that less than 40% have said, yes, I want the vaccine and I'll take it. There's 60% of people who are people in the target area, older people and people with comorbidities, who are actually saying, no, I'm not taking the vaccine. So that's, that's
but
really...
is that a reflection of people rejecting the science, or is that people saying, I want someone else to go first?
A bit of both, I think, Stuart.
As I said, if they want someone to go, because he said the good news is, he said once you turn 60 and you've got diabetes and you've got high blood pressure, you've just gone up a couple of steps up if you want it. And I said, look, if you've got a supply under that desk now, there's the arm. Go for it. I'll take it tomorrow. I don't want the bloody thing, but anyway. Also last week, Rob Jeffrey pointing out that Shane van Gisbergen, I don't know if you saw the New Zealand Grand Prix, but what a drive that was. Started from pit lane in identical cars, came back through the field and won the New Zealand Grand Prix in the Formula Toyota. I mean, that was, if there was ever any doubt as to just how versatile and how good a driver Shane van Gisbergen is, that's certainly the end of it, because he beat some pretty good steerers there. Okay, it didn't have all the international superstars that series often has, but. He still beat people like Chris Van der Drift and veterans like Greg Murphy and people like that. He did a really stellar job to come back through the field and take that win. That was just a sensational drive, and congratulations to Shane, because I know that and as I said on his Facebook page, okay, it's the New Zealand Grand Prix. It's not a Formula One race. It's for Formula Toyota. It is a Grand Prix. It's your country's Grand Prix. And now forever and ever you can say, I am a winner of my home country's Grand Prix, whether it's Formula One or not. I think that means a lot. And I know that, we've spoken to Alan Jones. Alan Jones was incredibly proud of winning the Australian Grand Prix at a time when it wasn't a round of the World Championship, when it was for Formula 5000s.
Cam Waters has been doing a bit of speedway as well too, on a regular basis too, in the last few weeks.
Yeah, well, that's something that Shane. Shane does rallies, he does speed, and it shows that it's good to see.
Shane got banned from doing speedway by Red Bull.
Yeah. Roland wasn't happy with him doing the midget, particularly the midget racing. But Cam Waters has been running some sprint cars, which is really good. So. It's good to see, because we got out of that. It used to happen so often back in the sort of 60s and 70s. I remember when we did our first interview with Jack Brabham out at Sandown. Jack told us a story about running in a Formula One race, running in the German Grand Prix. I think it was at Hockenheim on the Saturday and Sunday. Flying back to England, running his Ford Mustang off the rear of the grid at a bank holiday meeting at Brands Hatch, and then straight from there going back to Germany to run the Formula 2 car on the following weekend. So he said, like, in any sort of in any month, he was pretty much racing every single weekend, and he was pretty much racing 3 or 4 different cars. So people don't do that nowadays, but people like Shane do, and Scotty McLaughlin did with the karts, and people like, I must say that's something. One thing that the ARC will not be, ARG, the Australian Racers Group, and Channel 7 that will not be happy about would be the reaction from Nick Percat.
Yeah, I did see that up there. I won't be doing any of this sort of stuff. I'm just going to stick to my car.
How keen are you? Not at all. No, not interested.
That certainly would. That's not Brad Jones-esque either. Brad would be usually a little bit more enthusiastic and upbeat and saying, "Look, we're not going to be doing it right now, but maybe one day," type jazz. I don't think Brad would have been too happy with Nick's comments either.
Well, I certainly you could hear the sort of the air get sucked out of the room, sort of as he's, because they were hoping that he'd say, it's like when I asked Kimi Räikkönen, are you glad to be back in Melbourne? He went, not really.
Surely there must be something good about Melbourne. No, I'd rather be home.
Yeah, I sort of said to him, I said, do you get out and see, and do you have any opportunity at all to get out and see? No, it's just this. What do you think of the Albert Park track? It's a track. Couldn't care.
Yeah, but he's a very hard man to please.
Sell it. So someone's put up somebody put on there a thing saying what would you rather do? Would you rather shoot hoops with Dan Ricciardo or go cruising on a country road with Seb Vettel or something like that? And one of them was have a quiet drink with Kimi. And I said, I'd like to have a quiet drink with Kimi because you wouldn't be just having one, and it would be a quiet drink.
Oh, you might get something after about 10. I'll tell you something sporting related I come across during the week. A reporter asked Michael Jordan in basketball, I don't know if you heard, on what he thought. I think there's a team over there that's been performing well and has done it. It could have been Kobe Bryant or LeBron James's team or something like that. And they said to Michael Jordan, so what do you think? There's this team, they've just, broken this record, done that, fantastic, etc. How do you compare them to your team back for the LA Lakers? We had Scottie Pippen and Dennis Rodman and yourself. And he said, if you put those teams up against each other right now and you played a game, who do you think would win, MJ? And he said, I think we'd win by about 2 or 3 points. And the reporter was like, oh, that's great. That'd be a really good, that'd be a spectacle. That'd be awesome if it could happen. Why do you think it'd be such a close game? He said, well, most of us are over 60 now, you realise.
Yeah, well played. And of course, Jordan now involved in motorsport, running in a partnership with the NASCAR. So so he's involved with that now. The liveries are coming up this weekend. Speaking of NASCAR, before I forget it, coming up this weekend and live on IMSA.tv with IMSA Radio with the voice of endurance racing, John Hindhoff, our mate Hindy from Midweek Motorsport and Radio Le Mans. They'll be doing all this weekend, not just the Daytona 24-hour, but also the support races, Mazda MX-5 racing on the high bank at Daytona is fascinaning.
Crazy little devils.
Yeah, so that's this weekend. So go to radiolemans.com, scroll down, you will see.
Does an MX-5 have enough power to get up the banking?
Oh yeah.
If it gets up there, how does it stay up there? I agree with you, Stuart.
Well, that's the problem sometimes. I mean, it's keeping up the momentum to stay
Alex,
up there.
if you're watching, you need to join in and tell us because we don't believe that.
Yeah, so
I reckon, Stuart, I'm with you. I reckon an ant's got more chance of getting up the halfway up the bank, and then absolutely crawling along in a bloody procession. Ants have got a better chance of holding their grip on a bloody Daytona.
There are a couple of MX-5s that have got LS1s in them now. They probably could do it, but...
Also, Rob Jeffrey pointing out the Monte Carlo round of the World Rally Champion, Rally Monte Carlo turnaround. There was a couple of big incidents. There was one in particular. Yeah, that rollover. Pete, did you see that? Especially the in-car footage.
Yeah. It went over the white lines and then went over the embankment. Yeah.
I just love it. He hit the embankment, went over on his roof, and then just suddenly went. It was like the Roadrunner cartoon with Wile E. Coyote. It was like
genius at work.
it just disappeared out of us. Like, oh, he's rolled over. Oh, he hasn't hit anything. Oops, he's gone. It was like, how? No, don't play that, Stuart. We will be pulled off within seconds. Literally.
In that case, I'll have to wipe it. Wash.
That's
wash
all
it
right. That's
myself.
just a
I
car
shouldn't do
going
it.
down the road somewhere down the Great Ocean Road during winter when it's a bit of snow. That's all it was.
Yeah, that is owned by.
Yeah, and that's not what you just described. You just described something of somebody just tilted. This was like the full-born airborne flying car.
Yeah. We got to be Red Bull own the rights to the World Rally Championship, and literally within seconds of they will pull a stream like that. I mean, we got caught with. They are really.
That's all right. That was just
they're
a Great
vicious
Ocean
on
Road
it.
cruise.
Oh. Yeah, great. It looks like game graphics, the one that I just watched.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great CGI on that one, Stuart.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
Yeah, the frame rate was a little low for a gaming rig, though.
But Paul's saying that the Shane's wasted in the super taxis. Yeah, I think that's true of a few people. I mean, I know people don't like to hear that sort of stuff. I mean, I think for us, it's fabulous to see him back, and it'll be great to see him in the main game. Yeah, but that you can say the same for Tom Randle as well. And I'm also worried about Joey Mawson. Joey Mawson, as they kept pointing out on the weekend, Joey Mawson won the German Formula 4 Championship by beating his teammate Mick Schumacher. Schumacher, of course, racing this year. That was always going to happen because of his name in Formula 1. But the fact was, Joey did beat him, and he just hit that brick wall, just the same as Thomas did. Just like James,
Lewis has hit it a bit too.
Yeah, I mean, everybody people just run out of, they just hit that brick wall, and it's good to see. You've got people like Oscar Piastri that have got some support to go further. But Joey is a case in point. I mean, he's trying to put together a deal now to run the rest of S5000. It'd be great to see him there, but no, he should be overseas, and he should be running at least in Formula.
Going back to Paul's point,
2.
I think in general, and you could go on for hours about this over and pour yourself a nice single malt, but a lot of drivers in a lot of the categories in Australia, as you said, they've obviously hit stumbling blocks and not been able to go that far around the world. But you get some of these drivers when they've had the talent to jump in another. For example, the Bathurst International, or we were up there for the 12-hour there last year. Seems like a long time ago now. You got a lot of drivers that are coming across from other categories, and they just blow your mind on how fast they can do it and adapt to the car. And you think if they had more time in a Porsche or an Audi, even a Bentley or whatever they could do, and they just churn out lap after lap, and they sometimes perform better than they do in their regular drive throughout the year. So it's just they can't always express themselves in the vehicle that they want to because of it all costs money.
Yeah, I mean, you've got in the main class at Daytona this week in the Daytona prototypes. I think there's something like 7 ex-Formula 1 drivers running around, including I've lost the train. I want to say Verstappen, but not Verstappen. Just got Pete can help me out here. Just got out of the Haas.
Kvyat? No.
Magnussen. Or
Magnussen,
Kev.
Yeah, sorry, just a senior's moment. So you got Magnussen, you got quite a few others there, and the interesting thing is they're all doing really well, but a lot of them when they go, they leave Formula 1 because they've been brought up in that they've been brought up in the bubble, and they've gone from Formula 4 to Formula 3 to Formula 2 to Formula 1. They're in the Formula 1 bubble. And now they're not in the Formula 1 bubble anymore. And what am I going to do? This is terrible. And the guys that are at Daytona at the moment are all saying to the media, we are having a ball. This is, I forgot isn't racing fun?
Yeah. That's exactly what it is. They get to it's like a big release. It's sort of a metaphoric weight off their shoulders where it's so regiment at the top level in Formula 1. And same with the motorbikes as well, though, too. That's why it's always good to be able to relate and see some character from some of the personalities that are in that high level of sports. They jump back into a category that's still high performance and still highly regarded, but there's less conformity they have to do. They can express themselves a bit more, have a bit of fun, go out there. No pressure as well sometimes. go out there, throw the car around, throw whatever vehicle around you want, and enjoy yourself. And they just take that ticket and go, I'll take it and ride.
The thing is, they're so sorry, Pete. You on?
Even Lee Holdsworth going from supercars to TCR, you know, he enjoyed himself a lot more, I think.
He said he hated it 3 weeks ago, though, Peter. Did you see the interview about that?
No.
So 3 weeks ago, when he first jumped in the car, he hadn't been in one before, said he absolutely hated it because he had to change his whole driving, not his whole style, but he's thinking about the car and how it handles and how it works and what he needs to do. And he said, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, I hated it. 2 weeks ago, he said, I don't think I'm going to get this. I don't think I'll be able to bloody drive this car around. But he said it just sort of finally clicked, and he got hold of it, and he was able to drive around and be able to perform it at the best of his ability, and the vehicle was. But yeah, at first when he jumped in it, because he's been in a supercar for over a decade, and that's, you know, other than that, it's just been a social drive, whatever else he's done. To be able to go in this and drive it and perform in it, he said he hated it 3 weeks ago.
The thing is as well. I mean, the opposite of that. It was Chaz Mostert, who came in as sort of, you know, basically supposedly a one-off. That was his thing, and he was obviously going back to concentrate on supercar. Now he's saying, look, I really want to run the Phillip Island round. I'll definitely be there if I can, and if it's possible to run the rest of the rounds, I'm putting my hand up. He really enjoyed it, so that was.
He's penciled in for 2, I think, Brett.
Yeah,
I think Braz has penciled in for 2, definite for the year, and as you said, keen to do more. But like he said, he did really well at the Bathurst 12-hour last year as well, though too. He can jump in it's GT or like that, and he's got such experiences. Well, look what he did overseas as well too in the US last year when he got to sneak over there as well.
Yeah, well, that's it. I mean, you know, like under normal circumstances, you would assume he'd be back at Daytona, sort of, you know, because class winner last year in the BMW. So the guy. The guy's got credential. I know that you know, the BMW team in America, North America, had were really impressed with him. They just thought he was a fantastic driver, and were looking for him to do more stuff in the future. So
they've had to part ways, unfortunately. So that's why he's freed up to jump in the Audi now. The
Audi. So so that will be. That will be good. Speaking of companies getting involved and talking about Daytona 500, the Daytona 24-hour, we've seen all of the sports car racing is, you know, just around the corner, is ready to boom again. We've seen over the past few months, apart from the fact with the Toyota hypercar has officially been released. We know that Peugeot are coming back. Renault as Alpine have announced their drivers for the Le Mans 24-hour and the World Endurance Championship. And overseas, we've got Honda, Porsche are coming back. Audi are coming back, and this week Honda announced that they will continue and that they will have a new car for at least for IMSA competition, but capable of running at Le Mans as well. So you would assume that, you know, I mean, if they've got a car that can run at Le Mans, of course you're going to want to run it at Le Mans, I would say. Also talk that Ford are very interested in coming back with a prototype to run at both IMSA and Le Mans, and also the announcement by Ford, or in an interview with Marshall Pruitt from Racer Magazine, the head of Ford Motorsport, said that Ford were very much looking to get re-involved in GT3 racing with the Mustang. There have been GT3 versions of the Mustang. They weren't particularly successful, sort of one race running over here, but to see like a factory supported and factory backed produced Ford Mustang in GT3 would be fantastic. So so that's all good news. You imagine, like, in a couple of years, in 2022 and beyond, at Le Mans, where you have Toyota and Peugeot and possibly Renault and Glickenhaus, Honda, Audi, Porsche, possibly Ford.
Mouth-watering.
Yeah, it's going to be lip smacking.
Odd thing to wonder as we go through that list is how many of those manufacturers are going to be moving from cars that currently get people from A to B, like if we follow the trend that's going on at the moment with more people working from home, people aren't going to be wanting to buying a car to sit in a garage that's normally for going back and forward to work. It's going to be a complete waste. Maybe people will be buying more sports cars in the future. There might be an opportunity for a shift in just the driving to be more about driving for enjoyment, for going places, for experiencing the things around us, rather than just getting in, sitting on a couch and going through the same traffic every morning and every night and driving us nuts. It might go back to cars being recreation.
Sunday specials, Stuart. Sunday specials drivers.
Exactly.
Well, that's what Porsche are like. Yeah, but that's what Porsche are saying. Yeah, that's the thing. They said, we will produce electric car, but they'll be for the commuter. They'll be there, but we will always be producing a high performance sports car, something that goes, because that will be the future. People want, especially overseas, especially people with more and more people living in cities, they'll be saying, look, I don't need a car. But I want a car, and if you don't need a car, I mean, the car I drive is because I need a car, and it needs to be practical, it needs to be cheap to run. If I didn't need a car, I wouldn't necessarily have that car. I'd be looking for something that was, somewhat less practical, but a lot more fun. Not that my Gets is not fun.
That's a lot of fun. Speaking of, I've got a power window switch. Got a power window switch for you sitting here too, Brett. I forgot to give you.
In big cities like New York, don't own cars at all. They just, if they want to go for a drive in the country, they hire one.
Yeah, well, I mean, we've had one of our crew members on the show for years, Kai. He used to live out this way, used to live out Narry Warren way, and then he moved into the city, had the car, and then after about a year, sort of did the sums and went, hang on, I'm paying a lot of money in rego and insurance for how many times have I actually had to use that car? And he worked out that it was much cheaper if he needed to go somewhere that he couldn't get to by public transport. It was much cheaper just to grab an Uber.
Without going into too much detail, if you go to Dubai, geez, I'd love to work at a Wreckers in Dubai. Some of the cars I've seen come up there, and they're worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. And you'd have one here in Australia, and you'd just be set for life if you scrapped it here. That's just in the scrapyard of Dubai. But if you go to Dubai, or if you go to America and the highways over there, you don't go and hire a Toyota Prius to go 800 miles across the desert and experience the thing. You jump in a Dodge Viper, you jump in a Ferrari, or you jump in a Mustang, or or a Corvette. You hire a nice, comfortable cruising car that you can have an experience in, take photos of, and as Stuart started off the conversation with, enjoy the experience with something that's going, might be obsolete in 50 years. That you'll still be able to buy fuel, but it'll be $10 a litre.
Or you brew your own.
Yeah, which is quite feasible.
Next to your moonshine, Stuart.
Methanol, ethanol, not so different.
But then you can also, the other thing that you don't see it as much now, but I know quite a few people who went to America and did the big trip, did the trip right across the states. Went from coast to coast, and they'd go over there and they'd buy a car. They wouldn't hire a car. They would go around and they would find something because the prices were so cheap. And now I know someone, and this admittedly this was like more than 20 years ago before we started the show. But I know someone who went there and actually got a 68 Camaro for $1,200, and it was in really bad condition. But he drove it right, and it broke down regularly. But he can say, I drove a Camaro from
the fun
from San Francisco to New York.
That whole thing. You see, I would actually go a little bit more budget with that, and I would go to a Wreckers somewhere in the US, find something along the lines of, say, a 66 Barracuda, which just so happens to have the same running gear that I'm familiar with the Valiant. That would be an ideal cruising car, something to have fun with.
you wouldn't find too many Barracudas cheap anymore. So that's the thing. I mean, it's like here now. The days of going over and going, picking up a 72 Mustang for sort of $1,500 or something because they're a dime a dozen, mate.
71
no,
Grand
that's-
Fury, maybe.
Yeah, they're not.
C-body for the big cruise with the smallest engine is 7 liters. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, sort of. A big Chevy Impala would be quite
But,
quite fun. Although I
you
would
could
like
do something off. You could also do something off the cuff and go over to America. And as you said, you could buy something for $1,500 or $2,000, but maybe do something off the cuff because what is still cheap over there, and they still don't regard them, but they can be reliable, and you get from coast to coast with minimal breakdown. Pick out your favorite European car. I don't know. It might be a Beamer, it might be a Merc, might be a AMG or something like that.
Have you looked at the prices of a Jensen Interceptor in America?
But I'm just saying, if it's out of your price range for an American muscle car to buy or even hire to a certain extent, buy something that you do admire and like, and just do something crazy and drive that from one side of the continent to the other.
Of course, you can always do the other sort of affordable way, and he did it for years. And I know a few people who did this as well. You could do sort of the George Vidovic thing, and go over and get yourself a Harley, ride that across the country, and then whack it onto a container ship, and 6 months later it arrives in Melbourne. Sort of
Disassemble it first. Firstly, because there's that whole asbestos thing coming into Australia, but also car parts attract a lower tax bracket than cars.
Yeah, at least take the minimum amount off it so it is actually a part rather than a functioning machine.
Disassemble the engine, put it on the back seat.
Yeah, like the old gag.
Or put it on the seat in the plane next to you and just book a flight with it. Just bring it over on the plane with.
That's been done. There was a story about.
It depends on if it's cast iron or alloy block.
Yeah, there was a story years ago about someone who brought over sort of an engine block on a domestic flight overnight from Melbourne to Adelaide for a round of the Australian Touring Car Championship, and they said we can't possibly get that in at the shipping companies say they can't. It's freight. We can't get it across. There's no room, and they said how so they got a lineup of seats. They got two burly guys get there, and they brought it across.
Just buy $200 seat, get 3 seats, put it in the middle of you. It's done.
Put it in the middle. Yeah.
Look, when I looked at my camera, I even worked out the shipping versus airline tickets and passports, and it actually came down to about $50 to $60 between the cost of getting a passport, getting on a plane, flying to the US, and bringing it back as hand luggage, compared to actually shipping. If it had been $100 more expensive in shipping, I would have been on the plane myself.
Yeah, well, that's what we did every time. It's obviously cheaper. Not so much now, but certainly back then. That's why all of the stuff, my lights, lenses, and things that I've got here were all bought in Hong Kong. It was cheaper to go over there, and it's and we worked out that and I know a few people who did that, but we worked out that. For certain things, if you went over there and got some clothes, got some suits tailored and some shirts tailored, and then went up to went to Shenzhen, raided the big computer markets there, which are absolutely huge. They're almost the size of Chadstone, and they just sell technology. That's all that's there. Technology and porn. That's all you get in Shenzhen. But you can go to there. You can go to places, in Hong Kong. As I said, it's not quite the same now, but back then, I know a few people who just did the sums and went, look, it's much cheaper for me to get, if I've got to get a couple of suits and a few shirts tailor-made, it's much cheaper to basically go up for a week to Hong Kong in the off-season, arrive on Monday, get fitted. And that's what I did. I went up there on the way through to Le Mans the first time. Went there, stopped off on the Monday, went straight down there to Tsimshiasu, got measured, got there, and said, I'll be back next Monday or the following Tuesday. Went over to France, did Le Mans, flew back to Hong Kong and got all the gear and brought it back. And it cost Yeah, I got
Less.
I got 2 suits and about five shirts for just on $1,200 Australian, and I'm still they're the
Incident-
suits. They're the suits that I'm still wearing on the show. That was 10
Incidentally,
years ago.
incidental question for you, Brett. Partly Shattered Man is in your lower third tonight. Is that because the Melbourne Renegades and the Stars didn't make the Big Bash finals?
No, not really. I was just looking for something, and it's a line from it's a line from an old Mike Nesmith song called St. Matthew. So look up St. Matthew if you're in there, and there's a line in there that I just heard it on the way in, and I was looking for something, and I went, sort of sums me up. So partly shattered man was appropriate, I thought, with the way
Nothing to do with the cricket then.
Nothing.
I
to
thought
do with
I
the
knew
cricket.
all Mike Nesmith songs. Is that one from the from his post Monkeys days, or
No, he actually he actually recorded it with the Monkeys at once, and then he
okay.
did another version there. But yeah, it's one of his songs called.
I'll go a little
Matthew.
bit more positive then. I'll go Richard Ashcroft, which is the frontman lead singer for The Verve, and he has a song and sings about Lucky Man. So anyway.
Yeah, no, it's definitely not me. That is way not me.
Good song
And then
though.
there's They Might Be Giants, who have a song about Triangle Man.
Yes. Interesting man, Triangle Man.
I've seen that one performed live 3 times.
Think of Triangle Man. I think of Pink Floyd and the cover of The Dark Side of the Moon.
Yes. Listen, giving that a bit of a workout.
Sidewall Boy comes to mind?
Well, I've seen still seen They Might Be Giants 3 times. I've seen Pink Floyd 3 times, so I'm happy.
Yes,
No.
and I hate you for it.
I'm happy. I'm happy with.
I
with
could
that,
actually
so.
feel the bass from a Pink Floyd concert from where I was working in 1989.
I do
Well,
envy you.
I had
I
to-
envy you
I
then,
didn't
Stuart,
know.
because I haven't even been that close.
Well, I was at that. I was at that concert. I was at I went to tour that tour. That was I think the Delicate Sound of Thunder tour.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So that was.
Another one
So,
I would
yeah,
like to
great,
have done, but I was too young, would have been a Dire Straits concert, because obviously the rest of the band will still tour, but Mark doesn't want it, hasn't done for a while. Something probably to do with breaking a bone when he was over here in the Australian
Yeah,
Grand Prix in the
that-
support
yeah.
race, but he doesn't tour any country, so I don't think he's holding that personally against Australia alone.
Could do with basically him not performing as Dire Straits anymore. He
Yeah,
does
well,
country music and folk music and whatever. He does his passion rather than the stuff that makes the money.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and there's
he-
nothing wrong with that. Just it would have been nice to do the odd
He's
concert
still.
once in
He's
a blue
still.
moon.
He still.
Yeah, Missing Presumed Having a
bit.
Good Time is the name of the album. What was the name of the group, though? I've got it
Okay,
in the
yeah.
other room.
Twisting by the pool, unfortunately. Yeah. Anyway.
That's how I feel right now.
The thought of you twisting anywhere, let alone by a pool, fills one with absolute dread.
Depends on the soap bubbles.
Soap
Okay,
bubbles.
well, I think that's sort of there. Is there anything else before
about
we anything else before we wrap
There's
this
a little
up,
bit
guys?
there's a little bit of F1 news around, but it's only just by the wayside this week. It's only just the usual generated BS that they're trying to keep their news related information out there a little bit. Daniel's getting a bit of attention, but that's good because he's in Australia anyway. He's an Australian anyway. Toby Price did get an award.
Yes.
Earlier in the week for his efforts in the world, and it was good to see that he was recognised.
Yeah, for what it's worth, it's like it's one of those things. I mean, those awards are there. I've always said that I would. They got rid of the sirs and dames and all the rest of it. I would still like to. I would like to see the return of knighthoods, but I've always said that what I want to see is it should be a national lottery. that you go there to raise money for, say, for valuable causes and all the rest of it. You go in there and you pay you get a lottery ticket, and then on Australia Day they have this big television spectacular, and they draw out, say, like from each state, five knights, 5 dames, 3 lordships. It's like, and congratulations to Lord Peter Johnson of Box Hill, Victoria. Congratulations to you could
for you it'd be Baron Brett Ramsey. Come on down.
I don't think I want Baron. I'm not sure Baron.
Count Chris Ritchie.
I mean, there'd be a small remuneration, like not a Tats Lotto style thing, but just enough so you could get the business cards done, so you could go. So whenever you went to America or something, you could go there and say, yes, could I have a room, please? Yeah, it's Lord Ramsey. Your lordship, please.
It reminds me of a Basil Fawlty script.
Yes, that was your lordship. That's John Traverna sold the XA or XB Falcon to a guy in the USA. There's a few Mad Max lookalike Falcons running around the USA. So
the original, the big one, the number one car is over in the USA. Unfortunately, still not destined to come back. However, I did see a bit of bits and pieces. One of Tony Longhurst's cars, the yellow Sierra, is for sale in the UK. Yeah. So if anyone's got a spare couple of 100,000 laying around in Gorillas, you could bring it back over to Australia if you want. It'd be good to see that around the racetrack.
Yeah, because there's a few.
Just a reminder on Mad Max cars for the collectors: there are no police interceptors that are genuine. They're all fake. The yellow and blue ones from the film all went into the crusher.
They did.
There is only one genuine coupe.
Yes, it's over in the US at the moment.
There were 3 cars built for the movie, and 2 were destroyed in making the movie.
Yeah, that one that's genuine in the US. I remember the magazine as a kid when it was discovered, and it was a guy that found it at the wreckers. I'm not sure if it was in Broken Hill, wherever it ended up. Did a
restoration on it. Yep.
Yeah, he went to the wreckers and he was just there, just looking at cars for whatever reason it was, and he noticed it because he opened the right-hand side driver's door, and in it was the leather pouch for the knife that you see in the movie in the scene. Yep. And he looked at it and saw and went, no, it couldn't be. And he thought to himself, it might be, it couldn't be. And he looked a bit harder over the car and realised what it was. It was the genuine article from the movie that was at the wreckers. And he made an offer, bought it off the wreckers, and as you said, the rest is history. Stuart and restored it. And
how many people do you know have claimed to have the real one, and there is only one?
Yeah.
Well, that's like the Batmobile, to the television Batmobile, the 1966 car. I mean, there's about a dozen of those floating around. In fact, there is one. Jerry the King Lawler, the WWE commentator and the wrestler, he owns one. And runs in, and they all swear that this is the car, this is the original, and I think it was the same sort of thing. It was like, no, the original actually, was trash.
A note on performance of Batmobiles: somebody did actually run a drag race with several of them set up, and the original one from the TV show kicked butt. It is the fastest of all of the film cars.
That's because it was an original car that they did up, they restored, and then they put the camouflage stuff over it, and then obviously it had all the goodies underneath.
The one for Michael Keaton's Batman is actually a stretched Bel Air, but it doesn't handle.
Just while we're talking Batmobiles, I'll put my hand up. I'll take one for the team here at In Pit Lane. Anyone wants, because there are a couple around the world, they did make them. I'll stunt drive. I'll take the test drive and the tumbler for us if we want. So that's. I heard it's a lot of fun to drive the tumbler. I'll have that one. I'll take one for the team and give that a workout across Calder Park or something.
There's a bloke in Western Australia who builds replica tumblers to order.
Full size, full scale.
Yep. There you go.
Okay.
So if Doc has no money for the next 10 years, he's bought a tumbler.
And with that...
and the tyres that are used on the tumbler are off of sprint cars, by the way.
Yeah, they'd have to be. They're just massive. Yeah, I don't think a BMW X8 would cover it.
Nope.
Anyway, on that note, I think we shall wrap that up, gentlemen. We've come to 10 o'clock, and it's time for me to eat some food or do something. It's also actually I'm going to go. Thankfully, I'm very lucky that the shop down the supermarket down the road is open till midnight, so I can pop down there and get some much needed supplies. So
Will there be a surprise with that surprise?
Or a shock.
who knows?
By the way, Chris, before you go, can you hold your cup up again, please?
Chroma key cup, mate.
Yep, there we go. It's magic.
Television magic.
You've got your cupping cloak.
Speaking of speaking of
It's
television,
like my Gemini.
It's got a cloak as well too that you put over the top and make it
The
disappear.
guy in the Falcon Ute didn't see it.
hey, look, I think we're getting the wrap up now from Mad Cow Mark. So Mark, I think that's I think he's saying like, okay, we've been duly informed and entertained now.
MCM.
Disappear. So
Thanks, MCM.
time to go. So I think that we will do that. I think we'll wrap that up. But speaking briefly of great television and all the rest of it, in Pit Lane we're negotiating. We're talking with Channel 31. We're trying to find a way of coming back. We had a bit of a get together last night, and we're looking for. We don't have the access to the studio, and that's our problem at the moment. Without access to a studio, it's very hard to do the show. But we are really working hard to come back to Channel 31. 31 certainly want us back, and we certainly want to come back with a brand new series on Channel 31 here in Melbourne, also Channel 44 over in Adelaide as well. So let's keep our fingers crossed. But stay subscribed to us on. Follow us on Facebook, and remember to like and subscribe to the In Pit Lane YouTube channel, where we will have stuff coming up, including, we hope very soon, a bit more live action coming up. We're hopefully not too far away of getting out to the track with. Getting out with to the track with some gear and getting some live action streaming to you at home, free of charge. As we said before, we're not charging for anybody to see what we produce. We want as many people to have access to it as possible. So until we see you next week, to everybody who's watching and to everybody here, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week, Thursday night, 9 o'clock here on Full Course Yellow. Until then, enjoy the Daytona 24 hour, and bye for now.